Oh man, that has to be one of my favorite songs so far.
White light and ocean deep, sweet sail, flowing sea, dark night, shadows brew on the horizon. My head will tie me up in chains, and I know I'll never live through the pain of repeating fear, thinking what if you're headed to a perfect storm, and knowing, don't tell me that you ain't been warned. Fear rising up, wait a minute, hesitate. Oh no, fuck it, do it anyway. Anyway, gotta let it rain, fighting even if I'm torn. Sky blowing up, damn it, I'll fly straight. Oh no, fuck it, do it anyway.
This is why I love music. Hey everyone, it's Kogan McCool. Welcome to this video. It's great to have you here on the channel. If you're new here, welcome along, and if you're a returning subscriber, you're the best. Recently, I have had such a run-in with technology. It's been like the bane of my life for the last week. I got a new keyboard and already 2 of the keys within a day fell off. And this is like the 5th keyboard that I've ordered. I've ordered another one, and hopefully this is the final one because it's a much higher value keyboard, but I don't know, fingers crossed. And one of my kind friends has lent me a workstation so that I can use it as a computer. Hopefully that will mean I can show you a bit more about my production process. It should perform better than my laptop, but I spent the last 3 days fighting with things and I still haven't managed to get everything properly working. It's such a love-hate relationship because all I want to do is produce music and make fire, but I have to try and become an IT expert. But the pain and suffering is totally worth it. Let's just dive into this track. I actually started with a little sample in Arcade. And I thought, ooh, that's really interesting. And all the sounds in Arcade are really cool, so I'm looking forward to using that more in the future. But after I'd heard that sound, I thought, okay, I want to make sure that I don't just use Arcade for everything in this track. So I came up with this guitar riff, and I've been trying to learn to properly palm mute the guitar. And I thought that that would help a lot because I didn't want the guitar to be played with open strings because it would just be too overpowering. I wanted this sort of dark, mysterious rhythm to it, so something like that. I decided to record several layers and push each to the left and right. So I've got a pretty heavy EQ on it just to really give it that muffled sound and try and remove some of the resonant frequencies that I didn't like. Obviously, if you can perform it, play it really well, and your deliveries really sound great, but if not, you can always go in and just chop up the sample. Make sure that you've faded them as well so you don't get too many pops and clicks. It's important then to use the metronome and just make sure that they really are as well in time as they can be. And obviously there can be a bit of playing that's open to interpretation, but if you're too careless with it, then it can really throw the track off. I then threw in another layer to make the sound thicker and fuller in the bigger parts. And that just gives it a bit of a thicker, fuller sound, and the tone is slightly different, just makes it a little bit more interesting. And then I sent them to 3 different effects chains, a large reverb and 2 different delays, then bust those effects together here and then automated the volume up and down. I also have a low pass that I automate up and down for the guitar here. Got some pretty heavy compression going on with the guitar too. 2 fruity compressors on the guitar and then on the main guitar bus. I've also got a sidechain compression to the kick. Then the next natural thing that I led onto were the drums. Most of the drums that I used here were from the Sicky Beats Pandora pack. I have another video about that I'll link up here, but so many of the samples that Sicky has in that pack have just become my go-to, so shout out to Sicky. I heard this loop originally which I just thought is awesome, and I definitely wanted to use it for something. So I heard that and I was like, oh, that is awesome. I've definitely got to use that somewhere. But it's a full drum loop. It's got kick, snare, hats. And I wanted to make sure that I actually had control over the kick and that they were separate. So I actually cut the sample up. And by doing that, it meant that I could put in my own kick and my own kick patterns. But I kept the snare, and it just meant that I would layer the snare with my own snare. Those two kick and snare sounds have to be some of my favorite, like, of all time. It's such a strong, snappy snare and a really thick, crunchy kick. It's so good. And then pairing that with the loop, I then exported that loop and sent one all the way to the left and one all the way to the right. They are exactly the same though, which can be a problem. There might be some phasing issues there, which if I produce this into a final song, I'll probably look into that, try and fix all of those and make each sample on either side different, so you're actually getting a proper stereo image. But for now, I was happy with what it was doing. And then I just added in a hi-hat pattern and some other foley just to make everything a little bit more interesting. And that is the double time tempo. So obviously the tempo up here is 160. That can also be halved down to 80, which is what I do here. In that beginning section within the verse, it is half the tempo, and then when you jump into the chorus, it's double the tempo and everything really picks up. And that really works well when you're up at tempos like 160. And again, that's another reason why I wanted to cut out the kick and the snare and use my own one, because originally I tried slowing down Sicky's sample to half the speed. But it just didn't sound quite right for what I was aiming for. So when I pair that with the guitar, I had already filmed this video yesterday. This is speaking of the issues I'd been having with technology, and whilst I was filming it, I actually came up with this idea for this little bell melody. Ooh, just had an idea right now. I'd probably want to add in like a little bell sound. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Ooh, I wonder if I can just do that. It's a new computer as well, so I don't know where all my files are yet. Maybe that? Bell lead. I'll add in the melody so I don't forget it. Dum 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 dum. That would pair in really well with everything else, and so I just threw it down. I'll probably change the sound a little bit so that it's a bit more audible and has a bit more of a plucky transient to it, but at the moment it seems to be working relatively well. And of course the last element that I added in just to tie everything all together and really give that thick, lovely sound is the 808. There wasn't anything particularly special about this 808, it was just I wanted it to be thick and have some decent saturation on it, and then also sidechain the kick to it and make sure that I cut it out regularly. So in those bits where everything comes off, it's really important that you also cut the 808 away too. Whereas there, you could just leave it on the whole time. But it just doesn't have quite the same impact and energy behind it. Speaking of impact and energy, I then just added in some little ear candy, some impacts here, some noises, just some really nice sound effects. I Again, most of these came from the Siki Pandora experience, so of course go and check that out down below. There's a free version and a paid for version, and I would recommend them both. And that was the entirety of the instrumental so far. Then I added in several different vocal ideas, and the way that I usually come up with vocals is I will open up this settings tab here, and within it you can put info of the project, and I just use this as a lyrics tab, and it means it always stays there. It's quick and easy to access, and I just write random stuff down. Any words that come to my mind that I think would be cool, I just write them down, and then I know that I can build on them in the future. And then I also just throw down random melody ideas in here with just tests. So for example, there's what I do with these ideas, so that I don't have to focus too much about singing them perfectly well, but just so that I can focus on getting the rough idea out, is there's a plugin called Auto Pitch. It's free and it works well enough, I find, for testing ideas. I don't think I'd ever leave it on a final vocal because it kind of degrades the quality of the audio so much that you notice it quite significantly, but for coming up with ideas, it's great. You just throw it on, throw it into the key. So for example, the melody that leads into the verse. So I was just throwing down a bunch of different ideas to see which ones I think worked best. So then once I'd written down a bunch of ideas and come up with the main vocal, I just have my lead vocal chain, and I've sent that to several different effects here. I've got quite a few different ones to choose from, and I just listen to each and see which ones I think suit the style of this track best. After having the lead vocal, I then recorded a pad, and it's just a bunch of layers. Yeah, and up until this point, I just haven't been able to do stuff like that because having this many different vocal channels would have just maxed my laptop out. So hopefully I'll be able to do a little bit more of things like that. And I think that it's amazing what that can do to just transform a song into something really special. So I love doing things like that. And it's just a bunch of individual layers. Sent to a vocal pad here, and then I also recorded doubles, so I just sent layers left and right. I also recorded whispers. I decided to give that a go, and I actually think it works quite well.
You're headed to a perfect storm, and no one don't tell me that you ain't been warm. Fear rising up, wait a minute, hesitate. Nah, fucking do it.
Sounds really weird and kind of creepy on its own, but then when you pair that with the other ones,
to perfect storm, and no one don't tell me that you ain't been warm. Fear rising up, wait a minute, hesitate. Nah, fuck it, do it anyway.
Those are pretty much, like, they've got effects on them, but I haven't sent them to reverbs and delays. It just means that there's this nice rich dry tone that pairs well with the rest of the sounds, and then you've got
you're ready to perfect storm, and no one don't tell me that you ain't been warm. Fear rising up, wait a minute, hesitate. Nah, fuck it, do it anyway.
And you've just got your lead vocal, which pairs together with it all.
You're headed to a perfect storm, and no one don't tell me that you ain't been warned. Fear rising up, wait a minute, hesitate. Nah, fuck it, do it anyway.
Oh man, that has to be one of my favorite songs so far. I really hope that you guys like it, and I really hope you find this video valuable. If you have any other questions, just let me know down below. If there's any other things you'd like to see, just send me a message on my Instagram or down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I look forward to sharing the next video with you, and you can probably click on one of those right now. But until then, believe in yourself and you will be unstoppable. Bye.
Pain of repeating fear, thinking what if you're headed hesitate. Oh no, no, fuck it, do it anyway. Anyway.